Going to make a start. So
yeah, that's fine. So I'll just keep admitting people as they join, Miss, as you're talking. That's fine.
Yeah, thank you. So for those of you that are here already and about to join, thank you for joining us. My name is Miss Akavan. I'm one of the assistant head teachers and I'm responsible for Key Stage 3 at Carrington School, and I've got Mrs. Blackwell with me, who's assistant head for teaching and learning. So between us we will talk through the general expectations around Key Stage 3, but also about teaching and learning, and then, as I said, there will be an opportunity to answer some questions at the end. Please do use the chat, and we are obviously recording this, so if you want to review it afterwards, then please feel free to do so. So on the screen now, you should see our values, which we have spent quite a lot of time working towards to make sure they are the best ones that we want our students to be working towards. And they are also ones that our students can all work towards as well. So aspire, innovate and respect are really key for us for lots of reasons. Aspire because we have high expectations around teaching and learning, but equally what that will look like when students leave Carrington School. Innovate because, as we are all very well aware, we've had to really be quite innovative in the way that we work over the past 18 months and adapt to that, and we want to prepare our students for what that's going to look like once they've obviously left us. But also respect is key to all the work that we do, and also the work that we want our students to be doing and demonstrating as they come through the school and go out into the local community. So respect is something that is going to run through all of the things that we do in our work, which we'll refer to as the evening goes on. So, as I said, my name is Miss Akavan. I'm assistant head for Key Stage 3. I have quite a wide and varied role, which is related to the oversight of Year 7, 8 and 9, and working with that wider team, which I'll talk about shortly. But I also oversee transition, admissions for the school, the idea of inclusion, and I'm a member of the safeguarding team. So I haven't been at the school very long, only a couple of years, but I've learned a lot about the school and obviously the changes that we've gone through, and I really enjoy being a member of the Carrington School community and working with the team that I do. So the team that I have is a large team of people. All of their images are found and can be found on the website, but we have 3 key teams. So the Year 7 team, as you can see there, I won't read out all their names, the Year 8 team and the Year 9 team. In total, there are 10 key people that I will be liaising with, often on a day-to-day basis. Between them, they then manage a team of over 20 mentors who are meeting with students twice a week, once in an assembly, once in a tutor time. And then all of those sorts of discussions that need to be had with students are followed up by myself through the line management of the staff that are on screen, training time that we do on a weekly basis, and making sure that the high standards that we want for our students are being met. And then there's lots of other discussion liaison with heads of faculty, directors of learning, because we want to address any behaviour, welfare or learning needs and support students obviously as they go through the school and make then that transition, especially in Year 9, into Key Stage 4 and what those final 2 years of school at Carrington are going to look like. So all of the details of these staff you should hopefully already have access to. If you don't for some reason, all of them can be found on the website, but essentially our emails just pretty much go by our first initial, our surname, and then at carringtonschool.org. So you should be able to find everybody through that medium. I want to talk a little bit about students with SEND. We have recently appointed a new Director of Inclusion, a gentleman called Mr. Sorensen, who's also part of the team of people that I manage. He will and has been working with heads of year to make sure that we're supporting all students. He's obviously had the first half term to get to know them and get to know the teams, and so that support will really kick in after the half term once he has really established himself in role. So his role, as well as those of the heads of year and the teams that they work with, are part of our DICE model, which stands for Developmental and Inclusive Centre of Excellence. That is where we are addressing and obviously supporting at all times the behaviour issues around students, if there are any, but equally rewarding where there are good things going on, focusing on inclusion and the welfare of our young people, but also making sure that we are a centre of excellence and focusing on the teaching and learning, which Mrs. Blackwell will be able to come back to shortly. So there is an awful lot of support that we offer students, and we do pride ourselves on that. There are various systems and services, both internally and externally, that we have access to and give that access to our students to as well. So staff refer via year teams, and we use an internal system to do that, and that is overseen by myself. So I gatekeep all of those referrals, and I, with the heads of year, triage who needs the support most and when. If we cannot manage things within school, we will obviously refer to outside agencies, but that would be with your input as parents and carers, and obviously your consent where it's required. We also wanted really this academic year to put a strong focus on rewards. There's a very small picture, hopefully, which you can see, which is our Hot Chocolate Friday, which takes place every week, where we invite the top 3 students with the most credits to a hot chocolate with myself. I don't have full attendance to that yet, but we are getting closer to it, and it's been a really nice way for myself particularly to meet with students and recognise their achievements, and I've had some really fascinating and interesting conversations with many students through that process, so I'm really looking forward to continuing with that, and obviously my Hot Chocolate Friday coming up at the end of this week. There are also rewards assemblies taking place this week, and we will do that throughout the year at the end of a half term, as an acknowledgement for the hard work that students are putting in. And we also want to make sure that students are being given the opportunity to demonstrate their various skills, which we're still learning about in some cases, especially our newer ones, and put into practice the collective values for what it means to be a student at Carrington School. So all of that will continue, and hopefully is something that students are enjoying and will be able to contribute to as the year goes forward. The other aspect that I also want to discuss is around uniform. You will hopefully have received the information about uniform, and I'll share the next slide shortly, which very clearly outlines what the expectations are regarding it. But we will be asking students to wear the full Warwick or full Carrington uniform from after half term. So if you are not sure what that entails, as I said, I'll share the next slide shortly, but it can be found on our website. What we are asking is that yourselves as parents and carers, but also the students themselves, so they take some responsibility, are preparing for what that means. So we want to make sure that that standard of uniform is raised, and there is a high expectation around what students wear and how they wear it. So they take pride in being a Carrington student, fully accepting that they might still be wearing a Warwick uniform. And on Thursday of this week, we are getting a delivery of the Year 8 and the Year 9 Carrington uniform. So if you have ordered that, we will make sure that that's distributed out to the students, and so they can take that home before the half term. If there are then any further queries, please do direct those to Laurie Hale at Your Image, and he will be able to support you through the half term if there are any changes that need to be made regarding sizing, those sorts of things. The uniform does also include school shoes, so we are asking for leather shoes to be worn, and we want to make sure that students are coming in on that first day back after half term, the 1st of November, dressed appropriately and making sure that they are fully equipped for being a student at the school and ready to learn. So if there are any questions or queries around the ability to get that organised, please do let heads of year know, but if there are specific queries about the uniform itself, they should go directly to Laurie Hale. The uniform information that you would have been sent previously is on the screen now, and again this is on our website, so please do consult this. Just to clarify, the jumper is not a compulsory part of the uniform, but the blazer and tie are, and it's really important that students understand that fact and obviously fulfil the expectations regarding it when they come back after the half term. I'm going to pass over briefly to Mrs. Blackwell so she can talk you through some information regarding teaching and learning, and then I will come back to follow up with some further information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss. So my name is Mrs. Blackwell, and I've actually worked at the school a bit longer than Miss Ackervan. I've done my whole career at the school. I've worked there for I think this is my 16th year, with the various different roles, but currently I'm one of the assistant head teachers and I'm looking at teaching and learning. So today I just want to talk about our strategy, talk about homework, and also talk to you about the core subjects and our what we're doing with those as well in our curriculum. Thank you, Miss. So in terms of our teaching and learning strategy, this is something that we started a few years ago now, before the pandemic, and we're making sure that this year we are consolidating it. What we want to have is a clear learning journey. We want to make sure that students understand where they are, what their starting point is, what they're learning and why, and where they are heading towards. And what we're trying to do as well is establish clear routines. So of course, every teacher is an individual. However, we want to make sure, and I'll come back to this on the next slide, that our strategy is really clear and that there is an effective way that we run our lessons so that the students have routines that they get used to. We also want to make sure that students are curious and they're excited about their learning. We want to make sure they are hooked on what they're learning about. And hopefully they've been coming home from school over the last few weeks, telling you what they've been doing and being interested, and telling you about exciting things that they're doing in their learning. As you know, this last couple of years has made sure that students have to be independent with their learning. But obviously, now that we're back in school, we want to make sure that that is consolidated. We want to make sure that students are resilient. So part of what we're doing with things like homework, for example, is trying to ensure that they are independent learners who are able to control and manage their workload and can access the learning that is given to them. We also want to ensure that they are empowered. So again, they know where they are at, they know what progress they've made, and that with feedback and marking in their books, they know what to do to move on and how to progress. And that progress then is going to be made across time, and it will be different for every individual. And again, you will get your progress report throughout the year. And I just want you to remember that actually, in terms of progress, the students are learning different topics, and therefore we might find that progress doesn't just go up in a lovely horizontal line going, making more and more progress. What we might find is that a certain topic or activity that they're doing, your child has found more difficult, and therefore there may be a slight dip, and then it might improve again later. Thank you, Miss. This is a document on the right-hand side here, which is showing our teaching and learning strategy. So what we want to make sure is that every lesson, the students have a do it now. So this means that no learning time is lost. The students should be, for example, it might be up on a PowerPoint on the board. It could be a piece of paper, an activity handed to them as they go into the classroom. They have something to do straight away. This is because our lessons are 45 minutes long, and we don't want to waste 10 minutes with, getting the activities ready. So that is the idea. Also, with the do it now, it's often going to be recapping or linking back to a previous activity. So it's reminding students of what they were learning previously, and gets their head in the right space for the subject. Also, every lesson, there is a big picture that is shared with students or an aim. So that might be their overarching topic that they're learning, or it could be if they have several lessons that week, for example, with a core subject, it might be reminding them of what they're learning about for that week. So again, it's about the students understanding why they are learning what they are learning, what the big picture is, what the aim is for, as I say, it could be that week, that half term, or maybe 3 weeks or something like that, depending on the topic. In terms of the getting involved element, that is whereby we hope to have several different activities in a lesson. Now, again, that can vary depending on the topic and depending on the subject. However, what we don't want is that the student is going from, lesson to lesson to lesson, having textbook, read this, answer these questions, for example, in every single lesson. So the idea is we want to make sure that everybody is involved, and there should be a variety of activities in the lesson to engage our students. We also have, as part of our teaching and learning strategy, an element whereby we want students to reflect and improve. This is sometimes called dirt time, which is directed in reflection time that the students are given. And sorry, I'm having to admit people as I'm talking, so that's why occasionally I keep stopping, so apologies. In terms of this then, this might be an element of a lesson. It also could be that, for example, the teacher has just marked their books, or they've just done a large assessment, and the reflection time may be the main activity. But what we want to make sure is that the students have opportunities throughout their learning, that they have their lessons, that they have, that they can respond to teacher feedback and directly improve what they've done. So as I say, that might be something that's a small activity, or it might be large. Now, if you see your child's books at home, you should see any marking that they've done, or any peer marking that has taken place in their books will be in green pen, whereas the staff will mark in red pen. So that's where you should be able to differentiate it. Finally, then, we have our Astra challenge. As you know, our motto is Ad Astra, reach to the stars. So for the challenge, that could be throughout the lesson, or it could be a larger activity at the end. And what we want to do is try and challenge all students, regardless of what set they're in. And that's why we have those throughout their lessons. Also, as part of our teaching and learning strategy, we have homework, but I will mention that later. Thank you, Miss. In terms of marking then, marking is quite different. For those of you that have students in year 7 and you haven't got any students that are already in the school, you might find the marking is slightly different from primary to secondary school. Our marking is based around the 3 M's that you can see there. We want our marking to be meaningful to the students. We want it to be manageable for staff, and we also want it to be manageable for the students. So for example, some students struggle with spellings. We would hope that if they opened a double page in their book, that staff would have marked for spelling errors. However, if there is 20 words spelt incorrectly on a double page, we would obviously only look to maybe correct at each point 3 or 4, so that it's manageable when the student isn't unmotivated when they open their exercise book and they're not overwhelmed. And finally, we'd like the marking to be motivational. Of course, again, as I mentioned, there might be things that are incorrect. We will correct those. However, we do want to show the students how to improve. We don't want them to get disheartened, because learning is difficult and it's tiring and can feel for many of our students and many of us as well an uphill struggle. And actually, we want to make sure that they are motivated to improve. On the left-hand side, I've got an example there of one of our assessment grids. These are a big picture criteria grid. And again, you should see these in your child's books. These are an overview of a topic. So I'm a history teacher, so that's why I've got a history one for what the year 7s have been doing at the start of this year. You'll see there a difficulty rating, and the teacher will go through this. It should be stuck in the books at the beginning of a topic, so the students know what they're aiming towards. Also then, if they're absent, which hopefully they're not, but if they are, you can then see what your child's missed, and again see what they're working towards, etc. The difficulty rating is for the student to be aware of things like the concept, the skill in terms of difficulty. And then with the success rating, we would give a tick if we felt they were absolutely on target and they'd done that. So when you finish the unit, the teacher would go back, look through their work, and then tick this. And also you might find your child has gone through and done this as well as a self-assessment. So the plus would be they've done maybe above expected progress, tick would be on target, and minus might be below. And that might be because they were absent, for example. So the teacher might fill this in and then ask your child to go back in with him, give them some time, maybe either as a homework or in the lesson time, to fill in the gaps that they've got. So that's what we do in terms of assessment and feedback. And you might have other assessments as well, and other obviously class tests, etc., but these are, as I say, the big picture criteria that you should see in children's books. Thank you, Miss. Okay, so we've just got our next few slides focusing on our core subjects. So we're starting with English. And what English want to do is they want to develop literary skills and a love of reading for pleasure. We've got our beautiful Antares, our new library, which has got very up-to-date software, which I don't know if you know, it is on our school website, and you have had an email about it. We've got what's called Access It is what our library program is. And what you've got access to is you can see reading lists for subjects that we're hoping to put on there. You can see our books that we have online. You can order online. It's all done via email, just nice and snazzy, like it is with our modern libraries, outside of school life. And I know some students are using it and they're collecting their books. They're ordering online at a weekend. They're coming to collect them, which is brilliant. But if you weren't aware of that, please do start to use that service if that would interest you and your child. In English, then, they are doing some of their lessons in Antares, especially year 7. So again, they're picking up the literacy there and reading. And throughout Key Stage 3, they do a range of topics and they study many different writers. Some of them you can see here on the screen. In terms of year 8, then, what they do is they build upon the skills that they've learned in year 7. And again, they're still working on literacy. They're still looking at non-fiction as well as fiction, and they're working on the love of reading. And then in terms of year 9, they start towards working towards the skills in GCSE. And I know that last year they started looking at Othello, for example, which is not normally a Key Stage 3 unit, and it works so well that they are going to continue to use that, and they'll be bringing in GCSE skills in, so that when they approach year 10 and 11, they are ready for English and they know what skills are needed. For maths, again, they're looking at a wide range of topics at Key Stage 3. As you're probably aware, we've got many different problems that they have to solve, and there's a huge range that they're looking at. And actually what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that students reach their full potential. Some students will find maths easy, some will obviously find it much harder, but actually we are trying to challenge all students and make sure, again, they develop an interest. That's what we're trying to do, and make sure they are problem solvers. And what you'll find is they'll learn topics in year 7, they'll then come back to those in year 8, and again back into year 9 and build upon those skills each time. For science, again, they're looking at lots of different subjects. For many of your children, they may not have looked at science in the same way that we would do at secondary, because of course primary schools don't necessarily have the same specialist rooms and specialist teachers. Now here, this slide mentions about homework, and it mentions about how you can support your child at home. That's another topic I will come back onto later in general. But actually, I think for year 7 especially, it's about the content that they have to learn and about vocabulary. One of the things we are focusing on in school is actually doing a lot more practicals at the moment, because of course we are now in these fabulous science labs that we've got up on the top floor of our Astra building, and we're also filling in gaps and thinking about what the students missed out on in terms of lockdown. For year 7s, as I say, they may never have done science experiments before, so we've gone right back to basics, explaining what science is, how to do practical exams, how to do experiments, how to write your method, that kind of thing. And that's being built upon in year 8, and they're doing lots of practicals as well. Now, as you'll see on the rest of this slide, it talks about how to support your child. And actually, I'd just like to mention here as well that we have a school shop that is on our school website, and it has mainly at the moment got about GCSE revision guides. If any of you have students up higher up the school, it's located in the quick links area of the school website. However, there is for science Key Stage 3 workbooks as well. So if it's an area that your child maybe really enjoys, or an area they find particularly difficult, you could go to there on the website and order them a revision guide if you think that would be helpful. And it mentions here other things as well, for example, BBC Bite Size. And also, of course, nowadays with YouTube, lots and lots of teachers have channels on YouTube that you can look up particular topics. It's an amazing learning tool for students that wouldn't have been around 10 years ago or so. What we want to do in school, we want to make sure we have a broad and balanced curriculum. So I just wanted to go through the subjects that we study in case you weren't aware. So we have obviously the 3 core subjects I've already mentioned. In humanities, the students learn history, RE and geography. For modern foreign languages, in year 7, they are learning French. In year 8, they are learning Spanish. In year 9, they are doing either French or Spanish. For performing arts, we have music, drama, PE and dance as well. For technology, they're on a rotation and they learn textiles. They have art, they have product design, and they have technology. And then once a fortnight, they have personal development, which is an adapted curriculum. And then on the alternate weeks, so these are on Wednesdays, on the alternate weeks, they have what's called the Excellence Programme. So in terms of excellence, that is one of our unique selling points at our school. Hopefully your child picked it and they've had their first session already and they're enjoying what they've learned. This is where students have the ability to pick from a menu. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create lots of unique opportunities for the students. So, for example, in Key Stage 3, as you're probably aware, the students might be doing, for example, a sport that they don't get to do in school normally. For example, korfball, which is the Dutch national sport, or stoorball, which is, for those of you that might be like myself and from Sussex, you might know stoorball, but if you're from the dark side, if you're in Surrey, you won't know about that. That's a sport that's very local to Sussex, a bit like cricket. We've also got things that aren't maybe so practical, more science-based. For example, they can learn to do the Crest Science Award. They can do things like, my mind's gone blank all of a sudden, I haven't got a list in front of me, but lots and lots of other things, mindfulness and lots of skills that will help them, you know, develop maybe new activities that they haven't done before, but also to try out new skills. So that's what we're working with the Excellence Programme. And actually a new booklet will be released about the end of November time for students to pick their next set of activities for the Excellence Programme for after Christmas. Now, homework. I know many of you will love homework and many of you will loathe homework. We have homework timetables, which I don't know if you are aware of, that are used by staff to make sure that the students aren't getting too much homework each night. They should be roughly getting every day 2 or 3 pieces, okay? So they shouldn't be getting any more than that. They should always be given at least a few days to do it, if not a whole week to complete it. It shouldn't necessarily, unless it is something that is quite small and easily manageable, it shouldn't be, you know, setting it on a Tuesday and it had to be due in on Wednesday. It should not be as short as that, because we're aware that many students have clubs and activities outside school and they're managing their workload you know, just like adults would, and therefore they shouldn't be having just one night to do it. A piece of homework, as I say, should be set weekly. The homework should be set, or it might be set fortnightly for a fortnight to be due in case, you know, say that the piece of work is very large, it's a part of a project, big research piece of work, something like that. Maybe it will warrant that actually a week's not long enough and therefore staff will give 2 weeks, but most of the time it will be weekly. Homework clubs are going to be set up in a bit more specifically after half term, but we do have the Antares, as I mentioned, our library is open before school and after school already, and I know some students are using it. But if you know that your child struggles at home to do homework, maybe they've got younger siblings who are irritating them, etc., and they can't concentrate, potentially they can go to, you know, Antares and do it there. Now, I know, you know, that we do have many students who spend a lot of time on homework, and for parents, I know it's difficult to know, you know, the quality. Please do check homework. If you think they've written a sentence and you're looking at it and thinking, I think the teacher would probably like more of a paragraph and a couple more sentences, you know, please do encourage them to write in as much detail as possible. Also, though, of course, the other end of the coin, if you know your child is staying up late and they're very, you know, getting very anxious about the amount of homework, please do, if you feel that they have spent half an hour on their homework and that's the amount of time that their teacher has said it should take, please feel free to take it from them, email the teacher, or write at the end of the homework. You know, you can sign it to say, my child spent the allocated time on this, but unfortunately didn't finish it. Please do, you know, start that dialogue with teaching staff. That's absolutely fine. You know, I can't say a magic amount of time that a child should spend on a piece of homework, because of course it will vary. And but as I say, on Go for Schools, when the teacher sets it, they should allocate how long it should take. And if you feel it's too much, or as I say, if you feel your child spent that time on it and they haven't quite done all the tasks that's needed, etc., please do feel free to write in it that they've completed the adequate amount of time. Because actually, as I say, we are managing workload for students, and of course some students will spend too long on it potentially. And as I say, we don't want them working all the time. We know they do need time for relaxation as well. Finally, this is my last slide then, just talking to you about how you can support your child. And I hope this isn't teaching you to suck eggs. Hopefully it's useful. You know, these bullet points are just things that I can, having worked, as I say, at the school a long time, thinking here about things that have occasionally been a real hindrance to students in the past. In terms of homework, do they have a suitable space to work? Many of our children have to share bedrooms, of course, and actually maybe we need to encourage them to do more of it at school and staying at school and doing their homework at school, or whether that's definitely a space that students will sometimes want to work lying on their bed. That's absolutely fine. If they do have a kitchen table, though, is that a suitable space, a much more suitable space that they should be working? I'm not sure, it's up to you. But that's, you know, one of our concerns we have. Obviously, with the homework, please do look at Go for Schools. Please do check with them. As I say, if you know that homework is set, for example, in a certain subject every Monday, please do encourage them to complete it. Do they have access to their school email address? Can they log on? Do they need support with setting their passwords? If they don't, the mentors will check, but that is how they should be can access that will be lot of school communication will be via their school email, and therefore it's really important that the students know how to access that. And if they need their password reset, they need to come into school and go to our IT department, which is on the top floor of the Astra building, and they can get their password reset. But if they don't let us know, we don't know about that. So please do let Hubs know, or you can email me and let me know, and I can help you support that out as well. So the revision guides I've already mentioned, they're on the school shop. And finally, you know, please do show an interest in what your child's learning. And I know it's difficult to get teenagers to talk at times. They'll just say yes, no, you know, one word, you know, answers, etc. But it really does help them if you ask them. And as I say, look, many of you will have interests outside school as well. And for example, from my history point of view, you know, you might find out that your child's learning about World War I, and you know things about World War I yourself, and you can have conversations. It really does help and support. And as I say, finally, you know, we do understand about homework and other pressures as well outside school. They do need burnout. They do need downtime. We're worried about burnout. We're obviously worried about anxiety as well. So please do keep that dialogue going with us in school, and together we can, you know, support all your children to do really well. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Mrs. Blackwell. So hopefully that gives you a good indication of the overview specifically of teaching and learning. What I want to speak to you about just briefly are the teaching groups. I see that there have been a few questions in the chat, and hopefully some of what I say next will address some of this. So you understand, we have 7 teaching groups in the same way that we have 7 mentor groups. Generally, we have groups M, N and O, and they are our top groups. And then we have groups P, Q, R and S, and they are our mixed groups. And we do not have a traditional lower set or bottom set, as some schools might refer to it. And we've moved away from that model because we want to make sure that students are being appropriately challenged and supported in lessons. And our teaching and learning strategy does obviously reinforce that same message. Students can move between groups, and they do move between groups, and we do have plans to make some of those changes for after half term, which I'll speak to you about shortly. But it's so you understand that that challenge is there, because we do have an awful lot of very bright and able students, and we want to make sure that they are being pushed both through Key Stage 3 and at Key Stage 4, possibly to take the extension group GCSE, and we've got a lot of different options available to that. But equally, other students that might need some additional support also are being challenged in the areas that they can be and supported elsewhere. So in year 7, we have recently, I think they just finished today, the catch-up group completed CATs, and we use something called CAT 4. So that will inform our group changes. We have obviously got information about the students from primary schools, but what we don't have is Key Stage 2 data for obvious reasons. But with the information that we've received from primary schools, our own knowledge of the students, having taught them for the last 5-6 weeks, and the CAT 4, we can then make informed decisions about the groups that they go into. And that process will begin towards the end of this week and into the beginning of next half term. So then we can make a decision about which groups they go to, and we will share that information with you and the students as soon as possible. So those mixed groups will be a real variety of mix across the board, both in English, maths, but it might well be that a student is in group M for English, but they might be in a mixed group for maths, and there will be that variety in their timetable. Once you've received that, obviously if you do have questions, please refer to the heads of year, but that is the plan that we are moving towards once all of the CAT 4 data has come through to us. For year 8, there was a catch-up session for some students, either because they started with us a little bit late, or they weren't with us in year 7 because they've recently been admitted. And so those changes may impact them when we look at changing any groups. And again, that will be communicated with you, but we don't have any wider changes to move, wider plans to change anything in year 8. We do have an alternative provision which runs at Key Stage 3 called Route 3, and the cohort that's currently there is year 8. They are also going to take part in the CATs if they've not done so today, and that will then inform any decisions we make about returning them to mainstream. And the intention, if that affects your child, is to do that before the end of the autumn term, so they can be in mainstream as they were previously from January 2022, so in the spring term. With year 9, there has been a recent discussion between the heads of year, myself, and then directors of learning and heads of faculty, and that is to make sure that any changes we make are purposeful and focused on students' learning ultimately. So there again will be changes for students after half term, and the students and then the parents and carers that are affected will be contacted individually regarding that, because it does affect such a small number. Again, thinking about Route 3, we will be looking at referring some of our year 9 students into that programme again from the spring, and that process will begin in the next half term. So again, if it affects your child, we will make sure that that's communicated with you. The purpose of that is really to support them, nurture them, fill any gaps that they might have, to ensure that they're ready for mainstream in the longer term, and obviously also for Key Stage 4 moving forwards. I'm going to be finishing shortly, and so there will be an opportunity to address the questions that are coming through, and obviously for you to ask any if you feel confident to do so. One of the things that we are very keen on is getting student voice and that participation from students. And we have set up some surveys, which I will place on Go for Schools by the end of the week. And those surveys are very quick, very short. There's only about 15 questions. They are really just for us to understand student experiences, so they're tailored to the year 7s, the 8s and year 9s based on the year group that they are in, year 7 particularly around transition, and making sure that we then have that information ready to support them moving into the next half term. So I will put the deadline to complete those as Friday the 29th of October. That is in the half term, but it will give myself and some of the members of staff working with these young people time to review that information and then make plans ready to support them into the next half term. Really, we know it's going to be a busy half term, as it is every time, and we want to put the things in place that students both want and need and have asked for, because as I said, that student voice is really key to us here at the school. We will also be inviting your feedback, and so some surveys about your opinions will be sent shortly, hopefully in the next few days. I did receive some information from parents, requests really about what to cover this evening. So hopefully I have done that if you've made that request. But getting involved from your perspective really is around what Mrs. Blackwell's mentioned about supporting with the completion of homework. I would thoroughly recommend that if you don't already and your child doesn't already, that you set up Go for Schools on the app, because it provides you with the real-time updates that we don't always have the capacity to do immediately as teachers, but also some insight into the progress of your children, which I know is going to be a real priority for you. If you are keen to get even more involved, we do have SOCs, which we named this year, which is the supporters of Carrington School. And you can be involved in all sorts of ways, particularly around fundraising, if that's what you're interested in. And also, yes, we are a school and education is at the heart of what we're doing, but there are a whole range of enrichment activities on offer, and they will change and adapt as the year goes through, depending on the activities that are on offer, but equally the weather, because we can then start to introduce some different outside activities as the year goes on. Please encourage your child or your children to participate in those. It's a really good way to be part of the school, to make new friends, expand their horizons, expand their skill sets. And it's something that we would really like them to be part of, increasing our numbers. We've played lots of recent matches and won many of them, so we want to build upon those successes and celebrate them with the young people that we have. So it is now a time for questions. I think probably what's best is if I stop sharing and we just